Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Crypto My Money. My name is Joel, and I am joined by Martin. And today we have a really exciting episode for you all. Man, this past week has just been crazy in the crypto market. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, totally. See, that's why my 42,000 Bitcoin hat is back on my head because we're comfortably over 40,000 again.
Yeah, things are definitely looking really, really good, really, really bright. I bet everyone's portfolios is looking pretty good. It's making a lot of people feel really, really good as well. So starting off with Bitcoin, I mean, Bitcoin really did a big rebound here, didn't it? What is now, what is that, like 40K, 40 as of today is like 42.
Yeah, it's like last I checked, it was 44, like 44.1, 44.3.
Yeah, around 44. So man, it really rebounded. And I think this is really a learning lesson in of itself to just again not just hold, believe in something and just hold.
Yeah,
You know, do not let that FOMO control your life.
yeah.
Uh,
Wasn't
and
this your first major crash that you experienced as as an investor with like a sizable amount of capital in your portfolio?
It was actually, yeah. So I'm actually fairly new to the whole investing in crypto,
Yeah.
and yeah, when I started investing, it was in its
Like now you
last
have serious you have serious skin in the game.
exactly, yeah, yeah. This is like one of the very first dips, real big dips that I experienced, and it was interesting going through it. Both emotionally and from the side of just seeing the price fluctuate so much.
Yeah. Well, not yeah. Now you've experienced what it's like to go as far as the market wants to go, and then riding it back up.
Exactly, and now also knowing that hey, if it reached 60, the low mid 60s before, like I think we can get there again. So it makes me even more optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, but we want to use this excitement also, or this time of excitement, to remind everybody that when the market is starting to get excited, you're probably too late in the short term to maximize your gains. Now, in the long term, Bitcoin is still cheap. I think Bitcoin is going to $1 million in 5 years. So uh, any price under a million is a really good price if you have that long term mentality. But if you're trying to achieve gains in the short term, or even if they're unrealized, like even if you don't sell, if you want to see gains, then we've kind of crossed into that threshold where the market is bullish and you won't have as many gains in the short term because everybody's excited. Like the as an investor, when there's blood on the street and everybody's fearful, that's when you need to get excited and greedy and buy. And I think we touched on this last week. So now that the market is getting excited, we're excited because we bought the dip, we rode it all the way down. I was buying the dips, buy, and then it would
Mhm.
go down. I would buy again, and then in between, I was dollar cost averaging and finding other ways to buy more. And you were doing as well, right? You were dollar cost averaging in and buying dips as you could, and those were great times. And now I'm happy because my portfolio is nice and stuffed with some cheap Bitcoin, and now it's going up. But if you weren't doing that hard work of rearranging your life in such a way that you could put more money into Bitcoin when it was under 35, 40, even at some point even under 30,000, then it's like, yeah, don't be FOMOing into Bitcoin now because the market gets excited again. Continue continue to dollar cost average. I will continue to dollar cost average because again, I have a long term mentality, and I think in 5 years, $1 million is very probable, and $1 million is like 20 times 20x from where Bitcoin is right now. So you can still 20x your money in the long term. So I'll just continue to dollar cost average. But in terms of like FOMOing or taking money out of my savings to buy Bitcoin, like after 40,000 mentally, it's not for me.
Yeah, and this goes back to our episode that we did of just investing on the fundamentals. back when we recorded that was the reason why we recorded, because it looked like the prices of the crypto assets were going down. And what we're saying is just, hey, the fundamental technology hasn't changed. All of this is driven by news, by emotion, and long and
Yeah.
behold, guess what happened? The emotion changed, and now we're back up because the underlying technology did not change. Like you mentioned, it didn't get hacked. Anything, nothing related to the technology actually changed.
Yep. So for me, now that we're past the cheap period, mentally, what I think is a cheap period, I'm getting ready for the next dip or the next opportunity, and put it in and stacking up cash reserves so that I have some dry powder. I have that money set aside that I can then buy when there's a dip or whatever opportunity comes up. So as an investor, you have to think opposite of the market.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Always be thinking long term, for sure. For sure. So Bitcoin was not the only one that was making big moves, was it? There's
Oh
another.
no.
There's something else that was making big waves. Something
Yeah.
that probably not a lot of people may be familiar with, and that is
Oh, this is this is
VGX.
this is the little gem that I let you in on, that I told you about a while ago, and you were buying it when it was cheap at under $2, and then at some point, like 2 days ago, it was at over $4.30. I think it may have gotten to 4.50,
Mhm.
which is like more than double what it was just a few weeks ago.
Definitely, yeah. It made some. It was actually performing better than Bitcoin. It was like one of the top
Oh yeah,
performing
yeah,
crypto assets. So for a
yeah.
lot of people that may not be so familiar with VGX, how would you explain what VGX is?
Yeah, so VGX is the utility token for the Voyager exchange. Voyager is an app. It's actually my preferred app, and I shared it with you. So that's where I buy Bitcoin, Ethereum. I actually buy most of my digital assets through Voyager.
Exactly. And one of the things that I like the most about Voyager is that they don't charge any transaction fees. And their model, if you go to their website, you can definitely learn more. And on their website, if you go there, you'll see that their model revolves around them acting kind of like as a platform, connecting to multiple exchanges. And by them
Yeah,
being
they're a
able to do
broker.
that, yeah, exactly. And by them being able to do that, they're able to get the best price for either your sell or you buy.
Yep.
Uh, but I mean, their functionality is definitely growing day by day. And over this past week, they did a pretty big acquisition as well that will allow them to move not only internationally, but to be able to expand into allow businesses to do transactions with crypto, to make transactions and the person being able to pay with crypto. Which is a big reason why we saw that big move, because hey, the market believes on what they did, and I believe in it now more than ever.
Yeah. Well, that acquisition is why the price of that token jumped up more than 100%.
Exactly. And you mentioned this to me, that you see this as the Amazon of the equivalent of maybe investing in Amazon back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, so if you would have bought Amazon before, like even if you would have bought at the peak of the dot-com boom right before the crash, if you would have held your Amazon from then to now, you would be so flush. I think we talked about this at one point in the episode, like many episodes ago, where we actually gave the actual calculation of like if you would have bought the peak and you would have held it now, like how much you'd be up. But it's just insanity. But that's the thing, is like Amazon was was very visionary, very forward thinking, and it took a particular kind of person to understand where the market was going with Amazon and what they were doing. And Amazon was a company that wasn't profitable for the longest time because they were just growing. So I'm not necessarily comparing Amazon to Voyager in that sense, but I think that Voyager is doing a lot of things that other apps are doing. Like they're doing pieces of it, whereas Voyager's like kind of bringing it all together. And I think that within a year or 2 years, Voyager will be in a position where people like me can basically kick our banks. Like I think Voyager is going to get to that point soon where you'll basically not need a bank anymore, because they offer 9% interest on stablecoin right now. It's like having a 9% interest savings account. I use Voyager as my savings account. I don't have money. I have very little, very little money in like the actual bank accounts that I have. Like most of my money that I save is in stable coins. So I already have that going, and then I buy most of my crypto in Voyager, and I leave it there because they pay good interest. So I got that, and then they're going to come out with a debit card. So at that point, I don't really need a bank.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So their functionality is growing to provide products that similar to what every bank provides, right?
Yeah,
You
and
have the
Voyager
savings
right now,
account.
dude, Voyager right now is pretty much just a US company. I think they operate just in the US or US and Canada. And like I just start to think like Voyager started doing all these great things, and the user base is tiny right now compared to where they're going to be, especially now with Coinify, where they'll go to I can't remember if it's like 100 countries, something like that Coinify is in. So now Voyager is going to be global. And I think next month they're going to roll out their new Voyager loyalty program, which is based on how many Voyager tokens you have, and that includes you getting a boost in the interest that you get paid in some assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum. They'll pay you more interest, and then you also earn 7% interest on your Voyager. And then when they come out with a debit card, they're going to give you cash back, and they're going to give you cash back in Voyager. So then you can just like leave that Voyager in your Voyager account in the Voyager app, Voyager, and you earn interest in Voyager. And as Voyager continues to go up, then you'll make more money.
Yeah, I mean, to me, one of the reasons why I like it the most too is it's publicly traded. It's behind Coinbase. This is like this, this is second in terms of platforms that specifically deal with crypto that are publicly traded. So that gives me a lot of confidence because if it's publicly traded, there's more scrutiny, more audits done into them. Exactly. And like you said, the loyalty program, right? It's like
the Voyager token has utility because of the loyalty program.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're paying you really, really good, interest, not on your assets, but in essentially what is equivalent of just cash sitting in an account.
Yeah.
Something that you don't see anywhere else. And they're also, I've been reading, they're also been moving into decentralized finance, right? On the blockchain. So pretty soon you maybe even be able to take out a loan to buy a car or even a house, right? In theory, through Voyager.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting. So big moves.
Yep. So the other reason why I compare VGX to Amazon is because in my mind, it's a long-term hold, like 5 to 10 years at least. You need to hold it for a long time because they're going to do a lot of things in the kind of like mid-term to long term. So that's why I also compare it to Amazon. Like I told I think it was like last week or something, we were talking about this, and I told you, dude, this is our Amazon moment. This is where like we could be like the people that bought Amazon in 2000 or 2001 and are super loaded in 2020 because Amazon's just been going up. I think I think VGX will at least 10x by the end of this year.
Interesting. Huh.
But that's just the end of this year. Like that's not taking into account if you just hold it for another 5-10 years, whatever.
Exactly. I'll be checking back with you in a year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if my prediction's good. I'm not. Yeah, I like to predict just for myself, and then sometimes you and I will share predictions, but you just need to hold stuff for the long term. So yeah, to recap, I'm super bullish on Voyager because its utility is something useful, and then the acquisition of Coinify now makes it it will make it a global application, but it also will facilitate cross-border payments. And I think they're going to do like peer-to-peer, like where you'll be able to send crypto to other app users for free within the app, kind of like PayPal is doing now with their digital assets, where like you can buy Bitcoin and within the app you can send it for free to somebody else because that Bitcoin never really leaves like the PayPal ecosystem. So they're not paying the fees on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Definitely.
Also, the loyalty program, the utility piece, super big. And then when the debit card comes out, this for anybody who wants to ditch their banks makes Voyager a an alternative to banks, and it's a viable alternative to banks.
Exactly, and they're able to do that because they'll very likely. I mean, not a whole lot of utils are out there. But very likely, they would use something like stable coin, which is pegged to the U.S. dollar 1 to 1. So essentially, it's like a U.S. dollar, right? So it's like you're actually dealing with actual currency, which is a fix to the volatility. So, the more that I myself learn about VGX, the more I get more excited about that. But yeah, I think you touched on the really, really good fundamental points, and one of those too is that you gotta be. I think that the main one really that I got from that is that you gotta be focused, right? You gotta be thinking long term and just being focused, not letting all the short term, not the very short term movements that are happening necessarily like take your focus away from what you want to achieve and where you believe something like this is going to end.
Yep. So uh, unless you're a hedge fund or you're an asset management company that has an entire team of people, it's really hard to keep track of more than a handful of digital assets or any assets for that matter in any market. So I'm of the belief now that you need to find 3 to 5 assets that you really believe in. So you need to do a lot of research and see a lot of assets and then cut it down to small lists. And then from that list, cut it down even more to have a handful, a small basket of assets that you think have a lot of potential. So the fundamentals are good and that you're willing to hold for the long term because you think they're going to perform really well, because it's a lot easier to just focus on a handful of assets and watch them than it is if you do a peanut butter spread and you invest a little bit in everything. But see, here's the other thing too, is that if you do a peanut butter spread and you pick a really good asset in that spread, or maybe you have like 2 or 3 really good assets, their value will skyrocket. But because you only put in a little bit, then you're actually not going to get that big of a benefit.
Exactly. And I think given the technology as well, the whole well, the whole basket of crypto assets themselves are very speculative, right? Like you're already making a bet on all of them. Why not just focus on a few that you truly believe that by
Yeah.
learning and doing your homework really believe on, and really just holding and seeing where it goes. Because yeah, like you said, right? You already speculating to some extent. Why not speculate to leverage what you invest to the maximum potential
Yeah.
by doing it on what you believe?
Yeah, so like imagine if you're investing, like let's say you have $1,000 and you spread it across 20 assets, you do that peanut butter spread. It's like, okay, now you put $50 into 20 different assets. And if one of them goes up 100 times, it's like, okay, what's 100 times 50? 5,000. So like, okay, what if you took the same $1,000 and you put it into 5? That's 200. So the same 100, that's 20,000 that you would make on that winner.
Mhm.
20,000, 5,000 to 20,000. So the more research you do on these assets, then the more sure you can be that you're picking winners. And then you can put a larger amount of capital into the few that you think will be winners.
Mhm.
And then assuming that at least one of them does become a winner, then you'll maximize your return, right? Like do research and then just invest in stuff that you think has 10x or 100x potential, right? Depending on your time frame. Like your time for like 5 years, maybe you just want a 10x, or in 10 years, maybe you want 100x.
Mhm. Definitely. Well, I want as many X's as possible, so
Yeah,
that, that's one of the reasons why you personally, I'm also focusing a lot on VGX because I see that one has seen the most potential
yeah,
amongst a few other a few other assets. But yeah, I really do believe in GX, and not only because the future looks promising, but because they've been there. Even if you look, you know, it back in the history of VGX, like
Yeah,
you know, they've reached that, gone above $10. You
yeah,
know, they've gone above that, so I believe that they could get there again, especially since the
yeah,
technology itself keeps getting better.
yeah. Well, the local high is like $7, and they did that with, I don't know, like a million users in the US. What's Voyager going to do when it's global, right? Once again, I'm repeating this from the last time. And I believe so much in Voyager, and I've put a large amount of capital into Voyager because of all the research that I did, right, into the fundamentals of the token, and then the company that it represents, and then the loyalty program.
Exactly. And I think that by itself is a good example of, of focusing on an asset that you believe
Yeah.
in and that you
Well,
believe
yeah,
will
and the
more
other
than
thing
10x
too,
itself.
yeah, and then the other thing too is that if you only have a few assets that you're watching, then you have a lot more time to create exit strategies if you want for the long term, right? Like if you want to say, oh, once it hits this price, I want to take out 20%. If it hits this other price, I'm going to take out 20%. So if you do want to do exit strategies, it's a lot easier to do an exit strategy on just a few assets.
Hmm, true. Yeah. A lot easier, yeah, to see not only the exit strategy, but also well, on projections as well. Like, you were talking about where you project VGX to be at the end of the year. Like, it's only really possible to do that if you focus on a few assets, right? If you're spread very thin, it's hard to
Yeah.
actually try to make those projections or understand where an asset will be in a year or 2 years or so.
Yep. Yeah, I believe that what we're talking about here is the most surefire way to become wealthy in the 5 to 10 year time frame. You focus on the fundamentals, you find those handful of assets, you put as much capital as you can uh, when there are dips. If the market is just doing its normal thing, you just dollar cost average. Otherwise, you buy the dips. But you're looking for 10x or
Yep.
100x value investing and 5 to 10 year time horizon.
Exactly. The other thing I would add is maybe also start saving up for the next dip as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just-
I'm glad that you bring this up again because I think it's worth repeating. And I think we're going to be doing a lot of repeating in the future because these are the important concepts in investing. Like you have to have cash set aside as well for those dips because then if the asset in your basket dips, you want to buy that, right? Because it goes back to what we were saying. The fundamentals are still there. As long as the fundamentals are there, you want to buy that dip because you already see in the long term where it's going.
Exactly. And historically what has happened too, right? And we've also talked about this, you and I, before, of how the crypto markets too, it seems like those, the dips and the highs happening a lot more frequent than in you know, in the regular stock market. So it's another thing to keep in mind when looking
Yeah,
ahead and trying to plan and trying to save as well. Knowing that, hey, maybe, you may feel like you're just not really investing while you're saving, but the thing is, this seem to happen a lot more frequent than
yeah,
what a person is generally used to seeing in the general stock market. Uh, so overall, some pretty exciting stuff happened this week, and I think we'll continue to see it happen. So I'm pretty excited to see where this goes.
yeah. Me too. It's good times. It's nice to see the price go back. For me, mostly the excitement is just the fun of watching the price go up because, like, reality, like this is entering a little bit of a slow period. Like, I'm taking a little bit of time to focus on some other financial things that are not related to digital assets. But basically, like the last 3 months, I already did the hard work and did everything I could to buy as much, and you did as well. And now is a little bit of quiet period, but then also that accumulation of cash for the next dip.
Exactly. Going back to that focus, gotta stay focused. I know sometimes, at least it
Yeah,
was hard for me to stay somewhat focused when that was happening. But it's definitely worth it.
yeah, absolutely. So with that, we'll close out what is now the 10th episode.
Yeah, definitely. So as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have any suggestions, any comments, feel free to leave them down below, and be sure to hit subscribe if you have not yet done so. Until next time.
Yep. With that, goodbye.